Well, good day, everybody. Welcome to the Lifetime Training Podcast. And today I've got the one and only our team member development, in charge of team member development and PT experience, Mr. Danny King. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, man. Super excited. Super excited to be here.
It's been a long time. And you know, God, I know you've been absolutely dialed in and working your tushy off to try to help this thing. And your story is phenomenal. And I want to just take us through, you know, your story, when we'll get into the things that you're working on to help develop the trainers, to help give an experience to our members that is like no other. So, you know, why don't you just kick it off and tell us, how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, I love that question. Mostly because I just get to talk a bunch about myself, but no, so, you know, I've been in the fitness industry for, man, it's like almost 17 years. I realized like I'm getting close to where I can say 20 years, which is scary. You know, but no, you know, I started training in college, right? I stumbled into fitness. I left that. I'm the least athletic fitness professional you've ever seen. Didn't play a ton of sports in high school. No, it's serious. If you talk to anybody, I look athletic until you put a ball in it. Just no hand-eye coordination. That's where it goes.
Athletic in a different way, man. Athletic in a different way.
So what I found though is, you know, you don't have to be super coordinated to squat, right? You can have a great squat up and down. So I stumbled into exercise. It absolutely changed me, right? When I was a high school kid, getting that confidence, all that stuff, realized this is what I want to do. School for it, started training, you know, at like a little place right where I went to school, northern Minnesota. Type of place where when I applied for a job, they hired me, handed me a shirt, and were like, all right, here's your shirt, there's the floor, good luck, right? And, you know, made every mistake, screwed it up. Right out of school, ended up getting hired at Lifetime. It was super close by, came out, did a couple years at Lifetime. And like everybody else in the fitness industry, when you first come in, you have this assumption that the way you make it is to go do your own thing. And so I quit Lifetime because I'm clearly smarter than everybody else, and I'm ready to do my own thing. Quickly realized I had no plan there. Ended up working someplace else for a couple of years. Yeah.
Same thing, man.
Yeah, everybody does it, right?
Like, I remember my first time too, where they called me director of an ice arena facility, which is pretty big, but there was actually nobody in it. And I would just sit there and go, okay, now what am I going to do?
I had these, you know, grand plans or thoughts, but I was like, well, I got to get a job in the meantime. I didn't just stay and ended up just training somewhere else, and had a great experience somewhere else. And I'm very glad I did it, because I worked for a place that nothing changed, right? Like, so 4 years later, I'm still training, I'm still doing the exact same thing. And I found myself going from being a super productive trainer to almost getting on a performance improvement plan for no training, just because I was bored, right? Like I just didn't want to do it anymore. And so ended up coming back to Lifetime. Luckily had some great contacts. Alana Burns, who a lot of our Lifetime Nation is going to know, recruited me back in specifically to come be a leader, right? So I came in as an assistant manager. And then over the course of the next 9-ish years have kind of, I would say, never had a 3-year plan, never had a 5-year plan, always had a 1-week plan of, hey, let's just go have some fun at work. Let's just go, you know, let's go develop, let's go. And then all of a sudden one day, you know, let's call it 7 years later, I found myself sitting in some dress clothes in a cube going, what the hell happened? How did I get here? Like I specifically went to school for something to never have to sit, right? Never have to put dress clothes. I want to wear pajamas. I want to hang out at the gym all day. And I found myself in the corporate office at Lifetime.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, it's been a wild ride. It's been a lot of fun. And I've got to work on some pretty incredible projects and meet some, you know, incredible people along the way.
Well, you know, it's funny too, because I was talking to a member actually on a previous podcast, and he told me, he goes, I don't have a goal. He goes, I wanted to be on a journey. And I always say, like, you've got a vision. I know I've talked to you. We spent time together. Like, you've got a vision, and the goals really at the end of the day are the little guys that kind of lead up to it. And as you know, more than anything at Lifetime, they change every single day.
Yeah.
So it's great that you've got this master vision and the passion, you know, which is one of the reasons why we're doing the podcast is to help trainers, in essence, then help a larger audience, you know, get better.
Yeah, I think that's actually a key point in that vision idea. You know, I think, right, like I joke that when I started, you know, they handed me a shirt, sent me to the floor, right? But for most of my early career, the only reason I survived as a trainer is because I had super understanding parents who let me live at home, paid my car insurance, paid my phone bill, right? So when I was making a $200 paycheck, they were like, go get a real job, right?
Yeah.
And then I stumbled into, had some really killer mentors that I happened to learn. So I learned how to do the job. I figured it out. So I really, step one in that whole thing is I always been like, man, I survived because of a level of privilege and connection that most people don't have.
Mhm.
We can't make that happen, right? How many great people has the industry lost because we don't have that? So that really, when I came back to be an assistant, it was, I don't want someone to have to go through what I went through. And then at the next level and the next level, I've kind of always had that same goal, right? I think we could, and I'm gonna have to put, the first time I had the opportunity to sit down at a fitness conference, I keep names out of this, but I distinctly remember, I obviously, through some connections, I was talking to a bunch of presenters, right? And we're talking about how much we're training. And honestly, one of these guys was like, it basically admitted that like he's barely making rent on his facility. Mm-hmm. And here, I'm taking notes. He's a brilliant trainer, right? But my assumption is this guy up here speaking has made it. He's, in my head, he's making billions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He's swimming in
truth,
money.
Man.
And here I am as a assistant manager in Lifetime, realizing like, dude, I think I make more than this guy. Mm-hmm. To be clear, money's not everything, but like, hey, we got to pay our bills. To where I realized, man, there's this perception that the way to make it in the industry is go out on your own and do this. And what I realized is like, that's not really true. Yep. So then, right, the vision started to change to say, hey, let's showcase how we can change lives, how we can be passionate, and how like there's some real advantage to coming and being in a juggernaut in a system like Lifetime, right? Like, and so
and it's just the connections that
mm-hmm.
we both have been able to make. But I want to go back and something that I think is vital that for the trainers out there that are listening. The key thing, I think one of the key things you said is mentor. You found mentors, and that was the same thing with me, Tony Bruno. That's the guy that like helped me go through everything that and introduced me to the people that I was able to get introduced to. And then obviously Lifetime came along, and then that opened up 1.5 million doors. And, there's so it's funny because, you and I have spent how many years trying to develop trainers to be successful at Lifetime. And when we try to teach them the business, they don't want anything to do with it, or they're fear of it. But like you just said, those people that we look up to that we think are making all this money, they need the help in the business too.
For sure. Yeah.
So, but I think that's huge. And I don't want to assume, but I also think you starting out the way you did, like here's your shirt, go, also led you with a little bit of a passion to make sure that experience isn't what everybody else in the industry is.
Absolutely, 100%. Say, hey, let's do it differently, right? Like,
well, just quickly, kind of go through. I mean, you've been involved in so much, and we're going to deep dive into some of the things that you're diving into now. But I know you've been involved in so much. Why don't you take us through some of those things that you've been having a hand on throughout the years here?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first moved into a corporate role, right? So I stepped out of, well, let me go back a little bit actually. So I was a training manager for us. And I would say I knew taking the job that being a training manager wasn't my passion. And I say, this almost sounds bad when I say it, but people management is such a skill, and I'm okay at it. I'm not great. But I also knew that to do what I wanted to do in Lifetime, that was a great opportunity, right? To do it and to jump in. And I would highly encourage any of our trainers listening is you need a certain level of understanding there, right? Don't skip steps in that kind of career progression. But
I think it was a bit easier when we were PT managers. So a lot easier when I was. But
I had quite a few people, and I'm getting ahead. Same thing. I got to jump back in, but I got to move into a regional role in Minnesota, heavily focused on new hire development, which is really that passion point, and spent some time there. That transitioned into a corporate role where when I started is I moved very far out of the pure development of trainers into more team member retention stuff. How do we, right? It was that other side of the passion. How do we make sure we just stop losing trainers? And no matter what's happened is every role I step into, I always kind of bring it back to that education and that development path, right? So over time, as that role kind of shifted, and as there became more of this like really human capital staffing side of it, I said, I can do that, but I'm really passionate at like, my belief is the best way to not lose people is to just make the best trainers we can. Can I shift back into that world? So step back into more of a heavy educational role, developing internal content, starting to partner with some of our external vendors, create some relationships, and just try to bring just the best we could to our PTs.
Yeah. And one thing too, that I think is super important is the, that whole concept of, mentoring and finding what your love is. I remember, several people saying, "What's your love?" And I'm like, what, and when you do that, it's not a job anymore. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, you've been awesome. So why don't we get into, I know there's some just amazing, obviously COVID hits and, we all some get furloughed, some don't, whatever. And then we come back. Obviously it's not really a new world. I mean, it's a new world, but it's like, it actually, there's been a lot of positives that have allowed us to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Why don't you start talking about what we call PT Experience 3.0?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, COVID hit, right? And I was in the group, furloughed. I affectionately refer to as my summer vacation, and happened to be, I've been buying gym equipment at my house since I was like 21, right? Like at that point, my lack of 401k, because I chose to pump it all into fitness equipment, seemed like a really dumb decision. But who's laughing now when, world can't get it? I just spent 4 months in my garage getting jacked. It was interesting. And I don't say that to belittle anyone's, a potential negative experience, right? It was really tough. What it did do though is, especially even for me, I had some time to just downtime, right? To stop, slow down. What are you working on? What do you want to do? And it allowed me to realize that, hey, I am still passionate about this. I'm super passionate about Lifetime. And then, go and like you said, at a bigger level, is Lifetime did the same thing, right? Where are we going? What are we doing? So as we reopened, I came back in actually a more club operations based role, right? I reopened as a PT manager to just help support. We just knew we had to get clubs open. So I stepped back into that, and I got a few months in, I got quickly pulled back into corporate, and it came from ultimately even our CEO Ron McCarty at a level saying, "Hey, training, what are you doing to react to these changes?" Right? There's no denying COVID changed our world. Digital is here. Members aren't showing up to gyms right away. There's all these things happening. What are we doing to make sure that we don't go the way of Blockbuster or any of these things, right? And just get pushed out, so that there is still training in a few years. And based on previous relationships, based on so people know where my passion lies, I got pulled into work on that project, which we've kind of internally called PT 3.0. I keep joking that I just keep moving the 3.0 number up. I'm going to try to see how high I can get it to, like 5.0, 6.0.
At that point, you might be at the 30, 40, 50 year mark.
Well, we'll keep, but it's the idea. So really ultimately it came to, we're looking at how do we take some of the stuff, right? Lifetime was an amazing in-person company. That's what we focused on. Get in the four walls, bring your people in, have an amazing experience within the club. And what we realized though is like, hey, we've probably neglected the digital side of it. So a lot of what I'm doing is how do we integrate digital within our current experience? So we've got people working on digital to external members in there, and I've helped support that a little bit, but heavily focused on how does every member have a digital experience? What does that look like? How do we enhance the training experience? How do we just make it so amazing that, to be honest, it's not nearly the same as doing a workout at home by yourself or any of those things. And then ultimately, how do we really look at some new technology and some new enhancements? That's obviously, I know we'll talk about this, things like recovery, things like some of what we're doing with movement screening, all these things to just make an experience that you can't get, right? To try to pull people into it.
And it's so funny, and hopefully, there's this group. I would say some of the audience listening is lifetimers, and I think there's a portion that are not. And the perception that's out there, and it was something that I wanted to go back to a second is, you talked about losing trainers. Obviously, take COVID out. Everyone thinks that we have this huge turnover problem, and compared to the industry, that's 110%, right? We were floating where, Danny, like before COVID.
Yeah, pre-COVID, we're floating around like 30%.
Yeah, so, and it's so funny because, again, I stupidly got into an argument with somebody on LinkedIn, and your turnover sucks, and blah, blah. And I'm like, it really doesn't. Like maybe that experience that you had, and it was funny because I even coach, I'm like, hey man, talk to me offline. Let's actually talk on the phone, because I'd love to hear about your experience so we can help.
Yeah.
But that aside, there's this perception, because we are considered a big box, right? That we don't do, we're associated with everybody else. And gosh, it's just so wrong with everything, and that's why I want to spend the time really deep diving into like some of these partnerships that we have and what we're doing.
Yeah, I think you're right to just continue to kind of talk about on that, turnover point, right? Like, one, I think the fact that we had someone like me in a role that said, hey, your job is just to talk to people who are potentially a little disgruntled or work on turnover, is a signal of like, and this is while we're running at a 30% turnover rate, right? This isn't because we're 120% and it's there. This is like, even 30% to us is an unacceptable number, right? It's absurd better than the industry. It's good in most industries, right? But it's not, especially with the amount of time, effort, energy that we like to pump into our people. Hey, we don't want to lose that many, right? So the fact that it exists, and is there always that person that, hey, my manager at my club and I have this experience? Absolutely, right? I can't take down that human experience, but is that a lifetime? No, right? We've been able to run at a pretty low rate. In the same reason that we've been able to do it from a member side as well, right? Like, we have this, we want you to be successful, right? We want to, there's that quote, right? I've used it a million times. It's like, I think it's a Richard Branson quote. I might be wrong there. That's like, someone asks like, oh, what do you, aren't you concerned that you're going to train your people so well and then they're going to leave? And then, the rebuttal is like, aren't you concerned that you don't train them and they don't leave? And it's a perfect thing, right? We're going to pump a ton of time into you and make you super successful. And our hope is that we keep such a great place that you'll never want to leave us, but we want to make sure that like, you're great, right? Like, you can get that forward and crush it. So.
It is. So dive in. I know that you've been, heavily involved in the partnerships that we're, developing, and, let's focus on, the what are we doing right now to help our trainers, just better the experience so that we can, retain more members and retain more clients and get new ones.
Yeah. So, man, there's so many, there's a lot of directions we could go here. An area that we've not been great, that we've tried to start to put more time, effort, energy into, even, and actually the podcast is a good example of it, right? Pulling in some of these external experts a little bit. What we've traditionally said is, hey, we'll just pay pretty well and encourage you to go get education on your own. Right. And that's, you kind of go find it, you do it. So it's fairly new for us to say, let's go find some of our external educators that our trainers want, right? Let's go listen to our PTs. Who are they looking at? What do they like? And let's go try to partner. And once, as things open up and we can do it, let's start hosting some of these things inside our clubs, right? Let's bring the education to our trainers. Let's go work on getting some, discounts on this stuff, right? We've got, at this point, we've got almost 3,000 trainers again, right? That's pretty big buying power. Let's leverage that a little bit better to bring some of this external stuff to our people, to just make it easier, right? And then let's look at what can we do with these people partnering, especially some of the partners we have that are equipment vendors and some of those things internally, to then actually grab and develop some internal education, right? So what can we do that we can do at absolutely zero cost for our people, so that they can feel super confident in what they're delivering. So that's exciting. That there's a PT listening to this in the field is probably going to say, hey, I don't necessarily feel that yet. You'll start to feel, a little bit next, especially as things open.
It's funny too, because even in the past, if I know you stay tied to the outside as much as the inside as I do. And, the names of the outside world are ravishing over, unfortunately Chipoliquin, passed, but we had partnerships with him. Like we hosted his stuff and, Jim Lavelle, I mean, what he's done on it's so crazy. The blinders that some people have on and they just assume because we're a big box.
That's absolutely right. I mean, we've had long-term partnerships with, Precision Nutrition and John Berardi, right? He's been in our club speaking, and honestly, part of it too, I should say, is we've been, right, like anywhere, we've oscillated up and down with who we partnered with and what we've done, and how much of that stuff we've done. But one of the is obviously we've just got so many people and so many clubs and so many regions that getting it to everyone has always been the hard part, right? Like we'll drop some really cool stuff in a region, but you still got 140 other clubs that are, well, where's my thing, right? So figure out how can we start to try to make that more visible.
Yeah. So with regards to kind of right now, what you're
Yeah, yeah,
doing from an experience standpoint
yeah,
to help educate and then pass that down to our
yeah.
members, what are kind of either the partners or what are kind of the focus areas right now that you're working on?
Yeah, I think let me go. Not dodging the partner question. Let me
Yeah.
talk about kind of focus areas more a little bit. So a huge project for us right now is what we're calling recovery.
Yeah.
And so recovery, thinking about, there's this obviously growing market of all sorts of cool stuff. We think of Normatec and Theragun and all these really cool devices and equipment and all this kind of stuff that obviously can really help enhance our members' results. And so we're partnering with these guys to stand up. We've got we call Lifetime Recovery, or in some of our clubs called the Zone. We've got these recovery centers in a group of our clubs, and we're looking at how do we stand that up and how do we make that something accessible to our members who really want to optimize their performance, feel better, just do all these things.
Yep.
But almost more exciting to me is how are we going to bring that into every club so that every single training experience can have a recovery element to it, right? So how are we able to take something that traditionally people have seen, they're watching an NBA game and guys are there, got it on the sideline, LeBron's carrying his Normatex into the thing. How can I bring that to my, 50-year-old client that's whatever, seeing that like, oh yeah, I do that after my session. I've got I'm on a pro athlete regimen who probably needs it more than LeBron does, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This person's muscles in a rough spot, man. This person needs some Normatex more than he does.
Yeah. Well, and so, obviously Theragun and Normatec, what are some of those others? And as a trainer, you get access to that stuff, and you get access to the education behind it when you come on board. But at the end of the day, what other things are you looking at?
I'm going to keep, I'm going to tease, I'm going to keep names out of this next one, but we're looking at some really cool technology from a movement screening standpoint. So in the wall next to me, I'm in Chanhassen right now. We've got a system set up right now that's digital motion capture,
Awesome.
right? And we're playing with some really cool stuff there. Looking at, again, if here's the way I was putting it. I'm not making fun of my kettlebells when I do this, but you've got a trainer in a club that like, hey man, I'm the kettlebell guy. It's all I like to use. It's all I want to do. What ends up happening if that's the thing, like especially what we found in the pandemic, is a member's all of a sudden like, well, if the only thing I ever use is like 3 kettlebells, I should probably just buy 3 kettlebells and work out in my basement, right? Or so a big part of our thing is, all right, what are the things that you're never going to go buy, you're never going to go do that just really enhance. So when we think about things like setting up this, digital capture movement screen, this is technology that a couple years ago was a couple $100,000. It's likely come down in price, not that much, but even our most advanced trainers I like to think I'm pretty good at a movement screen. I like to think I'm pretty good at seeing how somebody moves, but I don't beat 8 high-speed cameras, right? That can do all this stuff. So looking at, and here's the cool part, here's what I think is really interesting, where Lifetime has moved over time, is not a single person, as we've started playing with this, has asked me like, what are we going to charge for this? How are we going to make money off of this? It's all been about how is this going to enhance the experience of a member, right? So a member walks in, they get screened. Now I can take a pretty young trainer, and while they're learning some of those things, hey, let's just screen it. It's going to give you some printouts and some ideas of where we need to go. And we can actually start to build protocols. So we can start to say, all right, if you see this, right, we see restricted shoulders, I'm going to explain to you what that means, but I can put a protocol within our app for, hey, restricted, right, that shoulder range of motion. And now even our youngest trainers can bring that to a member. So we're looking at heavily at, hey, how do we use that to enhance the experience of every member walking in, and then how do we use that for our trainers to be able to really give their members some outcomes, right? Because we know most members come in, got a weight loss goal, but like, I mean, we've coached people through weight loss for a while. It's going to take a long time. It's going to require you to make some changes outside of the gym that maybe you don't want to do. So the only focusing on that is pretty tough. Well, great. Let's look at your, let's look at your joint range of motion. Let's look at your potential for injury. Let's look at all of these things. And let's set some goals there, right? And if I can just simply, something I'm wildly passionate, we can go really long on, is like, if I can just get you kind of addicted to exercise, and I can get you realizing that independent of outcome, right? Your weight doesn't change, anything happens. If you were to exercise 3 to 5 times a week for the rest of your life, you'd feel so much better. Your brain health would be better, your everything, your aging, whatever. So the system that says, hey, let's get some goals, let's get some measurables on that. Now we've got this really cool stuff, right? So heavy on recovery, heavy on this kind of motion capture stuff. And then the other side of it is, this is where we're and again, early time talking about some different companies, but just how do we create a PT session that just blows someone's mind, right? And that's been a goal forever. That's never not been a goal, but it is probably more important as a goal, right? We've got all these apps out there. So dude, 10, 15 years ago when I started, it was like, if you're not going to hire me, you're screwed. Cause like to go find information online, right? You got to go to T Nation where like, like finding it on the internet is probably blacked on your, there wasn't info, right? Like you could maybe go to Barnes and Noble and buy a book, but like now I can, in 5 minutes, I can download 25 apps that are going to give me a program. So if I'm just simply delivering exercise to somebody, I mean, that's pretty replaceable. If I'm tying in some emotional components, if I'm connecting to you as a human, if I'm going through an interesting thing that honestly, I can't take any credit for this. We've got Catherine Coyle, who works at our corporate office, who'd be a super awesome person to talk to, really super credentialed in the Pilates world, but she's also this high-end, executive leadership coach using DISC profile, right? So if people are familiar with DISC, it's a leadership style assessment, but helping our PTs understand like what's their client profile and how might you change a program based off that, right? So D is dominant, they're kind of a type A dominant individual. How do I change my session experience for that person versus somebody who's what we call a steady, right? Who's so that one's not me, but it's all these interesting stuff coming together to make a session that just is going to blow somebody's mind and is about exercise, but more than exercise, right? So that they're like, I'm not getting this.
And I always talk about, well-being, and, I'm okay as I age and I'm almost hitting that 50 number. And I don't care. I'm cool with a 4-pack. I'm going to eat my pizzas every Sunday, but I just want to move better. Right. And I think the industry, the population is that we're able to reach. And then with COVID and just the mentality of just health and then performance and everything in between. And like you said, the niche markets. And, if your niche market is a small market, then you better be really, really good and be able to pay a lot. Obviously you've seen some things with regards to bringing this all together and then bringing the digital experience in, and you've kind of were hitting on some things. But how do you see the digital experience adding the value to the overall in-person training?
For sure. I think, I just was having a conversation this morning with a colleague, a former colleague around, what are you guys doing there? Do you really see it being a big thing? And I don't necessarily, maybe I'm going to be super wrong here. I'm going to be the guy that's like, the computer's not going to exist in 10 years. Some of the video-based training, it's a thing, right? I think it's going to be there, but I do think at some point, there's just so much more you can do in person. Where I think from a digital standpoint, though, that changed for the better and is driving us to change is, again, when I started training, you'd finish your session and we all had the tear off paper, right? It exists in the club where you can give your client you give them the white copy, I keep the yellow, your manager gets the pink, right? Like,
or some people don't give nothing, or it's chicken scratch, read it.
I took you through your exercise session, I high five you, you walk downstairs and we're done, right? So it was this very transactional experience. I don't say that to make fun of anyone who's doing that now. Like I said, I lived that world forever, but I'm your coach. I'm your coach for an hour. I high five you. Maybe we text the next day confirming an appointment. But that's got its own thing, man. I don't want to text for my client at 7 p.m. on a Saturday when I'm just not at work, right? Because it puts you back into work, and then it's this whole thing where what the digital side of it that matters, and these apps have come in, is what they've allowed me to do is sit down with my new clients, say, all right, Jason, the first thing we're going to do is get to know who you are, and I can walk through how often are you coming to the gym, right? So I say, like, how often are you exercising? How often is that going to be inside these doors? How often is that going to be at your house, potentially in that piece of exercise equipment you bought, which I think is great, right? Because, you got kids, you're busy, I don't need you to come to Lifetime. So the first thing we do is establish what you're doing there. Now I'm going to build that plan and I'm going to input it into our app so that you have a calendar, you have that experience. And now past that point, now let's just figure out how often do you need here, right? Let me take you through a session. Let me help you understand how hard you have to work, what do you have to focus on, what do you have to do. But now I'm your coach 24/7.
Yeah.
Right. I've built your plan. I've connected to you. I can message you in that way. I can give you articles, I can give you habits, but I'm a coach first. And I'm creating so where we're shifting is this 24/7 experience for anybody who works with a trainer. And digital has made that possible, where it's not taking me an incredible amount of time to do it, right? A couple years ago, working with like a Word doc, snipping and pasting stuff to try to do that was impossible, right? I understand why we didn't do it, but now, no excuse, right?
Yeah. And it's the value, right? Like you said, 24/7, but it's now it's no longer selling you sessions. And,
for sure.
we're selling a experience that is going to be with you every minute of the day. There's habits and this and that, all of these things that help this person move along. So it's like you said, it's no longer a hourly charge. It's let's get this thing done, as slowly or as fast as you want to go.
But again, we're gonna be with you. We're gonna build your program. I'm gonna give you everything you need to be successful. I'm gonna pump into you, and then we're just gonna figure out how often do you need me here, right? And the thing is, first I started talking about, someone's like, aren't you worried that as you give people programs and you do all of that no one's gonna want to come to in-person training ever again? Like, no, have you ever met me? I'm incredibly entertaining. People are gonna like, I'm not afraid of that at all. But where too, I think it's that scarcity is, look, there's a group that just wants that, and that's great. They'll do that. And now I've got a new avenue open that there was people doing it before, but we weren't really in that world. So let's go after that market, right? Let's get the people that just want some guidance. But more importantly, when I lay all of that out and then I walk you through an experience, in fact, I think more people are going to get connected because the value prop is even better than that person that was sold to, let me just come to sessions.
Yeah. And the thing too is the amount of people that you can reach, like, everybody in that club or in each individual club is doing a workout. Where are they getting it from? Teen Asian or Muscle Fitness or the Instagram guy or girl or whatever. And God, how crazy and great would it be to have every single member, every single person doing a trainer's structured workout,
for sure,
in some way, shape, or form, however many days that they want it. And now you, like you said, you have that reach to go back and connect with those people. And then some will pay you a lot of money and some won't, but they'll still be paying you maybe a little bit. Maybe they won't be paying anything, but they're sharing your name.
Hey, at least they're on something, right? I've built this program, it already exists. I can assign it to you. It takes a little to no effort on my part. So like you said, from low cost to high cost, but I mean, the amount of people walking into our buildings that are, following a different program, that stuff kills me now, to walk up to be able to be like, hey, I can't let you do this anymore. Just, let me coach you, right? Let me give you something. Let you see what it looks like to have a customized program built by somebody. And that opportunity is just huge. So I'm super excited for kind of jumping in on it.
Yeah. Well, anything else that, you haven't shared, and this has been awesome just to kind of get a full understanding of, where we're at, where we're going, and, what we're trying to do in the future.
I think, the big thing, we've dove into a ton of stuff. We could keep going for a long time. Me and you have obviously been able to talk for long periods of time. But one thing that I really want actually both our trainers to know, and people that are just curious about Lifetime, like you said, whether they're in the industry and not, is Lifetime's always been a great place to work. Lifetime's always listened well. Lifetime's done a lot of that stuff, but since everything's happened, I think we're in this really unique spot of saying, hey, we're ready to innovate, we're ready to develop. So most of what I'm talking about is stuff that we're building, developing, rolling out, but continuing to evolve. So if there's people out there that, again, are PTs that are listening to this, being like, that's super cool, I've got this thing that I think we should be doing because it's that much better, like, hit me up, right? We want to hear about it. I want to know what it is. If you're if someone's listening to this in the industry who's saying, I've got stuff that I believe could enhance it from that standpoint, we want to know about it, right? Like I said, it's like the coolest part of my job, getting to spend time thinking just what's out there, what's available, what can we go partner with and do? But yeah, man, if we're at this point more open than ever to say, let's go figure out how we can innovate, how we can be the best, how we can just absolutely put our trainers head and shoulders above everyone. So that's kind of an open call to anyone. Hopefully my inbox becomes flooded with stuff after this, right? With people hitting me up. DKing2 at lt.life.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it'll be there. But yeah, I want people to know that more than ever, this is by no means something that's done, developed. We're going to continue to innovate. We're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to expand. And we're open to hearing from everybody.
That's great. Well, again, it's been awesome, and I'm glad we were able to finally lock this in. And as more things come down, if we nail this motion capture thing, I'd love to have you back on. And
we've got some really cool stuff. If in the next few weeks and months, a couple of things that we're working on go just a step or two further, we're gonna have some really cool stuff to talk about. So I'm excited to come back on. Yeah, and give you some more answers.
Perfect. And at the end of the day, everybody out there, like, again, internal to Lifetime or not, this is no BS. I mean, this is, career opportunities. Yeah. You can say what you want about, and it's not for everybody. If you got an entrepreneur and you want to start your own business, go give that a shot. But at the end of the day, my biggest passion has always been, how can you make a living and retire in a role within the fitness industry in a training type of, role without going into general management or anything like that. And we've got that. We took a dip, but it's only going to get bigger and stronger and better. So
100%. So many opportunities. I feel always grateful just the fact that I've been able to, like you said, do what I'm passionate about. Have such a great experience and never focus on. So I took. Now I'm jumping back in. I know we're wrapping up, but
no, good.
Say that I took some courses on really starting your own fitness business, and again got lucky. One of the first questions that or kind of things they talked about was this idea that if you're not excited about the idea of running a Starbucks, don't start a gym, because ultimately it's the same thing, right? You've got to do it. So one of the things I've laughed at is, man, I've gotten to stay fitness and never have to worry about any of the things I don't care about, right? Which is really, my wife is a trainer for Lifetime as well. All my hobbies revolve around fitness. I've taken very few vacations outside of it. And that's what I, kind of eat, breathe. So the ability to stay just immersed in fitness and continue to make a career, that's not super common, right? It doesn't exist very many places. And I'm eternally thankful for and grateful to Lifetime for having that opportunity to always stay there and stay immersed in it, but continue to grow and challenge and do some cool new things.
And again, I want to reiterate, I'll have Danny's email, I'll throw mine in there. Is anybody interested in wanting to find out more? I mean, we are growing. We got 12, 13 more clubs coming in the next 12 to 15, 16 months, that we know about. We're not in the COVID. I mean, we're in the COVID world, but we're not. And we're coming out of it.
Mass just came out in Minnesota. Our activations went up 300%. We're again, it's over. There's still, there's still health concerns. We still got some, but man, we're growing again, right? Our clubs are getting busy, and it's time. So if you're interested, for sure,
please let us know. All right, brother. Thank you so much, and good luck to you. And can't wait to see you back out with your wife doing those competitions. I know competitions have stopped.
yeah. Looking forward to coming back, man. We'll have to jump on sometime, just talk about that. Right?
Absolutely, man. All right, brother. Have a great day.
You too, man.
Take care.